This is Jamie from The Absolute Mom, and today I'm going to review what is in our morning basket for February of 2020. We are a homeschool family for the last 3 years. I have a 10-year-old that is doing 4th grade level work, 2 5-year-olds that is doing a combination of preschool and kindergarten work, and a 3-year-old that feels like she should be in high school already. So she usually sits along with us and does whatever she feels like doing right alongside. So come along if you're interested in seeing what all we have for you today. We have this nice little basket that holds some of our smaller reading books, and then I have a separate area where I keep all our bigger books or all the things that I use to keep my 3 and 5-year-olds busy with their hands while I'm reading out loud to them to try to increase their attention span. I wasn't able to go through all of this at the start. Their attention span was very, very short, maybe like 5 minutes, and then they were ready to leave the table, and that was fine, and I just kept my 10-year-old there and worked with her then. But now as the year has progressed on, they're able to sit there for a good 30 minutes to get through a lot of this stuff. We don't do every subject every day. We kind of pick what we feel like doing for the day, and then we sit down and we do it. So let's get started and go through our morning basket for February of 2020. So our morning basket is set up in 3 different sections. There's one section that I mostly read aloud and is very interactive for my younger 3 kids, the 3 littles. Their ages are 3, 5, and 5. And then there's another section that is a little bit more curriculum, such as history, science, and geography. And that's for the whole entire group, but I don't really mind if the littles end up running off to play or to take a break. And then there's another section that is games or hands-on stuff to keep their little hands busy while I'm reading out loud to them. So this section is the part that we end up doing all together as a family with all 4 kids. Their ages again are 10, 5, 5, and 3. So I need to have something that keeps everybody happy all at the same time, and it's kind of different levels for everybody. So let's go ahead and get started. So one thing I feel like we always have going as a read aloud was these who was or what was books. My kids really enjoy them, and they're simple enough and short enough that it keeps their attention span, but it also is very easily understandable for their ages. They usually have little drawn pictures in it that keeps them engaged also. So for the month of February, just by chance, where we're hitting is we did some Harriet Tubman, and then that made them question a little bit more about Underground Railroad, so we read that one next, and now we're reading Who is Rosa Parks, because my 10-year-old started asking a lot more questions about her. So each month I just randomly pick stuff. There's not really a theme to it, but this month it's kind of gone in order and made a little bit of sense to them. Normally, while I'm reading these books, all the kids are either coloring something, or they're playing with Play-Doh, or they're doing something with their hands to keep them busy and let them know that it's time not to be talking over mama. We usually read a chapter or 2 easily each morning, and then sometimes at lunchtime is another good time that I pull out our morning basket, because they're all busy at that time, but yet they're all sitting still, able to listen very well. And then I just eat my lunch afterwards when we're all done with whatever we had been reading or reviewing or learning. Another book that we do every single morning is the 1-year book of devotion for kids. My kids really enjoy this. They don't have a huge attention span for us to just sit down and read the Bible out loud, considering the fact that only one of them can read so far. And so this is a very good difference for that, but yet get the Bible into them. So this book is it's kind of old. It's from 1993, but that does not bother us one bit. It's broken into different dates, and then it has a section called How About You that always lets the kids think about how they would apply this lesson into their life, and it has little verses that they can memorize also. So usually you read this, but there's also just a few verses out of the Bible that you read every single day too. And so it's giving my kids a lot of practice looking up verses in the Bible and learning how to read those. So these are two different things that are definitely for my 3 little kids. The community helpers is all about different people that help you in the community, what they do, what tools they use, and like what is different ways that they can help you. And so they also have on the back of them what you would need to do if you would like to become that, like what kind of college or what kind of training you would need, or what to expect out of a lifestyle of being that type of community helper. My kids have really enjoyed this. I just got it at a teaching store at Lakeshore Learning for very cheap. It tells all the tools of the trade. It tells, like I said, what all they need to do to learn to do that, and kind of what their typical day looks like. So especially my 5-year-olds are really loving these cards. We usually do just 1 community helper per week. The other book, and as I said, my 5-year-olds are kind of doing preschool / kindergarten at the same time. They have a summer birthday, and so we hadn't planned on starting kindergarten level work, but they're very interested, especially when it comes to math. So I went ahead and I got the What Your Kindergartner Needs to Know book, which is very interesting, and we just read through random parts of this. So there's little stories, there's vocabulary, there's geography, there's poems, there's a lot of great little things that we can literally spend 5 minutes on, and it teaches them quite a bit, and it helps this mama know that I'm not missing some little simple things that are easy to overlook. So they enjoy when we pull out this book. We probably do this about once per week. The other books that I usually always have going in the morning basket is just short books that are for my little kids. So the Who Was and What Was is a little bit more for my 10-year-old, even though definitely my 5-year-olds understand and follow along with it. But these are short stories that really engage my little ones, and I ask them simple questions to do a little bit of reading comprehension. And then at the end, I usually let them retell the story back to me, or I let them try to read the story back to me, which obviously they can't read, but they know kind of what the storyline was, and so I'm able to see that they're understanding what that was. The next one that my kids are always super excited when I get out, and that's all 4 of them, is the Draw Right Now program. So we only have book 1, but I have full intentions of buying all the other books. These are fun books for them to do, and usually as they end up drawing, so like this one was about pigs, which we've actually done, which they thought was really fun. It'll allow them to write underneath it, and so I have some printables that I had found online, and if I can find where I got them back, I will post the link below for you. But they end up drawing the main object, the pig, so I talk them through how to do it, and then they end up having to choose what the background is, which turns into really funny backgrounds with 5-year-olds. So my son will often put these guys like in places that they really don't belong, and then they end up copying off of this and writing out their words, so it's practicing their penmanship. And then my 10-year-old, I have her write it out in cursive so that she's practicing that penmanship. My little 3-year-old, I usually just write pigs like 3 times on lines, and I let her trace that, even though she is getting very good with her hand control. So my kids love this. They think it's tons of fun, and they're always super excited when we get this book out. A newer thing we just started about 6 months ago are these thankful journals. I found this My Thanks book printable online, and I gave one to each kid, and I also have one that we all ended up coloring, writing our names on, writing what year it was, and then I just stapled them to the front of a regular notebook. So usually a couple times a week we'll get these out, and I request that my kids write the top 3 things that they're thankful for that day or that week. We always write the date on top, so it's giving my 5-year-olds a lot of practice for that. And then for them, they're unable to just spell on their own. So I pull out these whiteboards, the dry erase whiteboards, and I'll usually write the date on top, and then I write their top 3 things that they are thankful for, and they just copy them down into their book. Sometimes they'll draw like a little picture that goes along with it to make it a little bit more interesting. And obviously you can tell writing is not always their best feature, but they're getting there. So the twins just do simple words. The 3-year-old ends up usually just scribbling or drawing a picture into her book, which is perfectly fine. But then my 10-year-old, I end up requesting that she writes at least 1 sentence for each thing that she's thankful for, and she writes it in cursive so that she's practicing her cursive. Mine turns more into a little bit of journal. It's usually like a good paragraph at least per item, and I also do 3 items per time that we sit down to do this. So another little thing that we end up doing is I laminate little like either rhymes or songs that I think will be helpful for them as they're learning new skills. And we end up just playing along with those during the day. Or we have some songs like the days of the week, the months of the year, all those kind of songs, what's the weather, that we end up doing during our morning time. Also, we have a calendar that is on the wall that we end up reviewing so that they understand like the days of the week go up top and how many Mondays there are each month and all this kind of stuff. So we end up doing that, and then we usually will count to 100 aloud with each other. So I have this 100 chart that I can point to. I know it's very small in the camera. And then each twin has their own little file folder that also has a little bit bigger of a 100 chart with all the tens highlighted a different color because they're skip counting by tens. And so it just kind of brings it to their attention a little bit better. And then for my little 3-year-old, I have like all the different shapes that I have laminated so that we can just go through it. And then it's helping my twins with a few that they don't know or how to spell or recognize the word of the shape. All right, one of the sections of the morning basket that we do is an academic section. I feel like there's one section that is more reading, this one's more academic, and then there's a hands-on interactive section. So this one, we usually throw history in there. We just finished volume 1 of Story of the World, and I didn't really do the activity manual with it because it seemed to really like disengage my kids. They just weren't ready to do the work alongside with the story. I would just ask them a few questions about the story, and they were able to narrate back to me what the story was about or who was in it. So I was fine with that. Now we have started volume 2, the Middle Ages. They love the story form. They're more willing to allow me to do some of the activity guide. And so with my 10-year-old, we're definitely doing the map work. She's very interested, and when I read aloud, she even says she can envision where it's at, like on the globe. And then usually all 4 of them are doing a coloring page while I'm reading it. And then they've realized that there's some really fun hands-on activities that we do with the Story of the World. So we made like axes the other day that they loved because they were able to paint it up, and then they reenacted a war scene, and so they're really enjoying it. Sometimes there's baking, sometimes it's clay work, and you're making like little pendant necklaces or little crosses, and so they're realizing that when I get out the activity manual that goes along with Story of the World, that it doesn't really mean that it's like a quiz or a test, that really it's fun stuff that goes with it. We have a couple of ways that we do science based on just kind of how much time or energy or attention span we have for the day. So this biggest book of science, I end up getting at a local thrift shop, and I thought that it would be more for my 5-year-olds. But my 10-year-old will stay up late at night reading this book. So it's just little fast, quick facts about different animals or scientific items, different parts of the world. It really engages her. Like, it really piques some interest. And then if it's something that we're more interested in and we want to look into more, then we do. We go either on YouTube and we find some stuff about it, or Netflix, or we go to the library and we find more books that we can read about it. It's super, super colorful. Some of the stuff is kind of funny in there. There's a few things about farting and gas, and my kids just think that kind of stuff is awesome. So if it means that we're not getting a really in-depth science, that's okay with me at this age. They're young. I just want to pique their interest and have them asking the right questions. The other way we do science is BJU, Bob Jones University Science. And so we are doing the 4th grade science. I was in between if I should kind of hold back for my little kids, but I feel like they kind of understand this enough. And usually by the time we get this science book out, they've left the table and it's more for the 10-year-old. So we just kind of read it aloud to each other, and then there's questions in the teacher's edition that we go through. I also have the activity manual that goes with this. Every now and then we'll do a little bit of lab work with it, but it just touches a little bit of basis that it keeps enough attention, but yet it doesn't drill it too hard, because she will shut down if there's too many questions to be answered. Also, for next year for science, we may be switching over to the daily learning online with Bob Jones University. And so she'll be getting some videos that go along with this. We currently do that for our English, and she absolutely loves it. And so I'm just trying to choose how many of those that I'm okay with her doing the computer time versus how much she wants me to be teaching her the stuff. And the last academic part that we do is Road Trip USA. We absolutely love this. It's from Confessions of a Homeschooler. I downloaded it, I printed it. It is a lot to print. My kids are really enjoying this. We travel a lot, and so they understand where certain placements of the states are and what is different about those states. But this gives them a little bit more in-depth, and definitely before we travel to a certain state, we review that state in depth so that they get more and more excited about it. We use little different books that go along with it, like this National Geographic Kids United States Atlas. It's very, very colorful. They enjoy it. When we travel, we usually bring it right along with us so that they can look up if they have any questions at all. And then I have a whole bunch of other little books that have interesting facts about each of the 50 states. The other thing that we do is the song 50 Nifty United States. I'm sure most of us learned if we were in public school. We usually will sing along with that too. It's really catchy, and it helps them understand and remember what all those states are. All right, heading into a different direction. These are a few things that I use just to keep their hands busy while I'm reading out loud to them. So my 3-year-old and 5-year-olds definitely love this little magnetic pattern block kit. So it just has little pictures. It has a whole bunch of the different blocks that they just have to match up to the picture to make it. I love that it's in this little pouch. It's super, super easy to pick up, keep together, and it's a nice quiet toy. Another thing that all 4 of my kids absolutely love is this pattern play color by design. All of them do this, even though the 3-year-old sometimes needs a little bit more help with the difficulty levels. But this can keep them busy for hours on end. It helps them recognize that the different shapes, it helps them recognize all the different colors. It comes along with all these colorful different cards, and your whole intention is to make all these different patterns out of these different blocks. And so it comes in a little wooden case that is very, very nice to put it all back together. Right, this one's a little bit more towards my 3-year-old, even though my 5-year-old sometimes will play the game, but they seem to get a little bit noisier when we do it. So for my 3-year-old, she loves playing this matching card games. The cards are actual really thick cardboard, and so the fact that they can't bend these up and ruin them just is so awesome for me. It's a nice small box that fits anywhere. I'll take it to speech so that my 3-year-old and 10-year-old can play it together, and they absolutely love it, and it keeps them nice and quiet in the waiting room so that they're not interrupting others. So this is one, like any matching game, I would really recommend. So the last one, I put little kits together such as this that'll keep them nice and busy. So this kit is little foam balls that they use to make all the letters of the alphabet. And so it has arrows that shows exactly where you start, what area you need to go to next, what direction you're doing, and to do. And so usually they take this fun foam stuff that will make a hot mess if you get it all over. They take this and they'll roll it into long straight lines, and they'll make the letter with it. The arrows show, like number 1 you go down, number 2 you go diagonal, number 3 you go across. And so it's nice and easy, and especially for my 3-year-old, it's teaching her that there's certain ways to write certain letters. All of them absolutely love this stuff. It's nice and quiet. We play with this, we play with Play-Doh, we do slime, we do some putty therapy because one of my 5-year-olds has weakness in her hands. And so the putty therapy, we have different strengths to help her build up her hand stamina. I have a lot of those little containers that I've put together for my preschoolers, basically to keep their hands super busy. So this one is all about letters, and so I have magnetic letters in here that I just got from the Target dollar spot. And so they end up finding like one of these cards, and then they have to find all of the letter magnets that go along with it. So this is something that keeps all of my kids busy. Another one that was in there is that these cards that are all separated, so they have to find, this is for my 5-year-olds more, they find the big card and the little card, they match it together. And so usually we have one area in the living room that has a really wide open doorway, and so they literally start it at one side of the doorway and they put it on the ground all the way to the other side of the doorway. And then I double check if they had their ABCs all matched up in the correct order, and I also make sure that the big letter and the little letter match up correctly. So they enjoy doing that greatly. Another one I have is numbers, and so they haven't done this near as much. I'm getting ready to pull it out more and more with my 3-year-old, but they have number lines that they can refer to either know how to write their letter or know what comes before or after or in between. Definitely my 5-year-olds aren't needing these near as much, but they were a really great resource when they were learning to recognize the written number. It also has like number cards, and then I also got the magnetic numbers to go right along with that. And so this is something that my 3-year-old is starting to work on. She knows how to count. She just has to learn how to recognize what the numbers are. So usually she can do 0, 1, 2, and 3, but after that she gets a little bit confused. So this will definitely be a box that I'm going to get out. These fit perfectly. I have labels so that I know exactly which one I'm grabbing for which kid, and then these lids pop on and they're very sturdy because my kids can take a big beating to things. And then we have the IKEA 16 cube that is in our homeschool room, and so 4 of these stack up very beautifully one on top of another, and I can see exactly what's in there to be grabbing. I have some for math, I have some for letters, some for sight words, some for holidays. It's just a very, very nice thing. I got all of them at Walmart. They were really cheap.